What's up guys, Sagi here and welcome to another Tech Gear Talk. Today I'm going to show you how to shoot a time lapse with the Fuji X-T3. I recently did a detailed review of the X-T3 and I'll add a link to it in the description in case you want to get some more information about this camera. I think that it could be the best value on the market for a camera that can perform great for both photography and video, and I've been super impressed with what Fuji has been able to do here. But today we're going to take a look at how to shoot a time lapse with the Fuji X-T3. Okay, so in the X series cameras, the option for time lapse is called interval timer shooting. But before we get to that, let's see what we have to do before we get started. To start doing a time lapse, you want to go to the shooting setting menu, which is the third one down. It looks like a camera, and then click on the interval timer shooting option. Next, you're going to select the interval or how often you want the X-T3 to take a photo. This can range from once every few hours to once a second. This will dictate how much you're going to speed up time. For slow moving objects, like for example, you may want to show some really cool shadows moving across the frame, you'll want to select a longer interval. For something like clouds moving, you'll want to select a few seconds, depending on the speed of the clouds. And for people moving around, you may want to choose only 1 second. Remember that if you're unsure, always select a shorter interval than you think, because you can speed the video up in editing and discard the extra frames. On the other hand, if the movement is too fast, you can't really slow it down because you don't have additional frames. Now the next step to figure out is how many shots you want the X-T3 to take. You need to consider two things. How many frames per second do you edit your videos in, and how long you want the video to be. If you edit your videos in 30 frames per second, like I do, that means that I need 30 images to make up 1 second of video. If I want a 10-second time lapse, I need 300 images, and so on. You can select the value between 1 and 999 on the X-T3, or you can set it to infinity, which will continue to shoot until you click OK to cancel. Now the last step is to select when you want the time lapse to start. You can select 0 hours and 0 minutes to begin immediately, or you can set a delay in minutes and hours. Now there are a few things you want to consider when you're shooting a time lapse with the Fuji X-T3. First, as with every time lapse, you want to give yourself plenty of time to set up. You don't want to rush the process and then waste hours just to realize that you overlooked something simple. Next, you want to think about image dimensions, and you have two options here. You can click on menu and select IQ and image size, and the top two options are 3x2 or 16:9. Now your video is most likely going to be 16:9, so you want to make sure that the camera is shooting in that dimension. Please select that option. Now some people would rather capture 3x2 image and then have some additional flexibility when it comes to composition in post-production. And that's true because you'll be cropping the top or the bottom of the image. There's no right or wrong choice here. I just want to make sure that you're aware of the options. Next, I want you to use manual focus. You don't want the camera to change focus during the time lapse. The best way to accomplish this is to either set it to manual focus and then set your focus manually, or start with autofocus, get your focus, lock it, and then turn it to manual focus so that it doesn't change. The next point I want to mention is that you want to keep your camera as steady as possible, so use a tripod. Any unintended movement, and I mean any, will ruin your time lapse. Even subtle changes in the position of the camera are super amplified when you speed things up. The only time when I don't use a tripod is when I intentionally add camera movement with a slider. But what's important here is that the camera movement is extremely slow and steady. Another important thing to consider is that you want to compose your shots and get your exposure before you go into the interval timer shooting menu. Once you're done selecting your options, you can't preview the image in a meaningful way and make adjustments to the exposure. Have you ever seen a time lapse that has like a flickering effect to it? The best way to avoid that is to use manual mode and lock in the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. This is going to give you the best and most consistent results. Alright, so once you have your images, there are several ways that you could do the final steps. You can use Photoshop or your video editor. If you're interested in learning more about those steps, let me know in the comment section below and I'll create a video outlining the two methods. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and hit the subscribe and notification buttons so that you know when that tutorial is published. Alright, so I hope this video was helpful in showing you how to shoot a time lapse with the Fuji X-T3. I walked you through the settings as well as pointed out a few things to consider before you start shooting, such as composition, exposure, image size, camera stability, and to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to set up. I hope that I was able to give you some useful advice about how to shoot a time lapse with the Fuji X-T3. If this video was helpful, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, tweet it, share it, and if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe and notification buttons. You can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tech Gear Talk. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.